Welcome to another episode of the Lights and Sirens Podcast with your host, Bernie Robinson. Today's episode, we have a special guest. I have a fellow first responder, EMT / RN / Congressional Candidate joining us today, and we're going to talk to Congressional Candidate KEVIN SURDI. He's sitting here with me right now. We're going to go over, I know Kevin for a long time. We worked together as first responders in EMS. And good guy, definitely. And when he called me and said, hey, I'm running for Congress, I definitely wanted to get, I want to hear that. One of us is running for a public office, which is amazing and it's great. And definitely we wanted to catch up. I haven't seen him in years. I think our paths crossed at Peconic Bay Medical Center a few years ago. And that's probably the last time I saw him. I was doing some work out there. He was working as an RN, but I'm excited to have him here with us and just hear about his experience, his first responder experience. So, Kevin, thanks for joining.
Well, thanks so much for having me. It's great to catch up and see you, and happy for the opportunity.
Yeah, definitely, man, definitely. So let's start. Talk about, your EMS career. How did you get involved in EMS?
So it was kind of by accident. I was 14 years old, and my dad had a friend that was working with the Glendale Volunteer Ambulance Corps. And I said, why don't you go down for one of their youth corps meetings? They had once-a-week meetings. I said, all right, I'll go check this out. I really had nothing else to do. So went down there, right into the Glendale Volunteer headquarters, and met with their youth corps, the youth corps president. I saw their EMTs, and I was just blown away. It was one of those places where you feel like you're in the right place for the right time. And we went over some basic first aid, and I got to meet the team, and we learned how to put people on a backboard. And I think what really sealed the deal for me is that they gave me a ride home in the ambulance. Yeah, and that was the first time I had ever been in one. And to really, step in there and see the inside of 911, see the inside of first responders, I was hooked from that first meeting. And I was a member of that youth corps for up until I was 18 years old. So I started at 14. And we did programs such as leaf cleaning in the community, helping elderly people that couldn't clean their leaves. We did the same thing with snow. We partnered with the 104th Police Precinct with NYPD and helping clean up graffiti, just making the town look nicer as well. And all the while, we got first aid training. We learned how to, bleeding control, orthopedics and fractures and trauma. And at a young kid, at 14, that's experience that I had never had before. 16 years old, became a certified first responder. So the Volunteer Ambulance Corps sponsored you through the class. And that's the same certification the firefighters have for FDNY. So I went through and you learned oxygen and cardiac, respiratory, really that head-to-toe assessment. And when you're 16, if you had your certified first responder card, you were able to ride the ambulance now and respond to calls. So I've been on I'm 34 now, and I've been on an ambulance since I was 16. And then 18 went and got my EMT, and then you became the primary tech on the ambulance. So you had the driver, the tech, and then we usually it's volunteers, so I had at least another person in the back as well. And just loved every single second of it. We're serving a community with the volunteers. We also linked with a lot of the other volunteer agencies around. And then I was lucky enough while I was in college, and I got a job with Northwell. Working for the voluntary New York City 911 system, and people called 911 and we'd respond, and it was a career I had all through nursing school, and it was a fantastic experience. I wouldn't give it up for anything.
Wow. So yeah, you talked about that you were an EMT. So you're working as an EMT and you're going to nursing school. Is that full time?
That was a full-time nursing school, and I worked per diem as an EMT,
right.
But really full-time hours, which was great. Worked out of Forest Hills and LIJ hospitals.
Man, all right. So how did that work out for your work-life balance? Because that seems to be a big issue right now in our field.
Work-life balance is something I think we're all striving to achieve, and I'd love to find someone that really found it.
Yeah, somebody that mastered it, right? Seriously, write that book, please.
It was a great partnership being an EMT and going to nursing school. So I was nursing school at Malloy College full-time, and I was able to work at, a really flexible schedule with Northwell. They're great scheduling around the nursing schedule. I worked primarily on the weekends. And I'd work either overnight shifts or day shifts for 12 hours. And it's just continual study. So everything that you're learning in nursing school, I'm seeing this when I respond to 911 calls. You're working on a patient that's having chest pain. We're learning about cardiology in nursing school, so I was able to combine the two, and it really enhanced all my learning to see it first in real life what this looks like, and then in the books at school as well.
Yeah, that's great. And that's one of the good things about EMS, I always say, is that it's a great foundation for a lot of different pathways you want to take career-wise. So I've seen EMTs go to law school, become go to medical school, go to nursing school, go into law enforcement. It's just definitely a great foundation. And even the medical schools now, right?
Yep.
Like Hofstra University,
They start.
their first-year medical students, they go through EMS training. They're all becoming EMTs their first year, and then they do, they ride on the ambulance with our EMTs and medics at Northwell. So, it's a great foundation, absolutely. I want to get to this a little later, but I guess apparently it's a foundation for politics too. So we'll get to that in a little bit. But something you said before, you mentioned the youth corps, and with recruitment right now being as tough as it is, I don't know if the EMS industry as a whole, even we're going through I don't want to say a crisis, but I guess a drought. There's a shortage of available employees that want to work in this field, and we just can't seem to get them out there fast enough to get into the ambulances and get employed with us. So how important is it, being that you started in the youth corps, do you think that's a great place to start? Because one of the things I've been talking to some people about is start young, start pipeline programs, start youth programs. My department, we have an Explorers program that we mentor high school students and try to steer them into the medical field, not specifically EMS, but it's a big part of it. But how important do you think that is?
I think if you can hit the youth early with this EMS piece and letting them know, there's options out there. There's a fantastic career you can have in medicine, whether it's EMS, nursing, physician, whatever it's going to be. I think a lot of attention gets toward other first responders. Like all the kids they know about being a fireman, they know about being a cop and or a doctor. But really, how many do you think they want to be an EMT or paramedic if it's not in their family? Like they don't see this. So I think being involved early on, hey, this is an option. This is a place where you can learn life-saving skills. And that's one of the things that really drew me to EMS was I always wanted to be the person that knew what to do. Right? You're at a party, you're at an event, and somebody goes down. I always felt like I needed to know what to do so I can try to help that person. And I've always felt that responsibility. EMS gave that to me. Not only does it give you the knowledge to help people out, it gives you a sense of community service. It gives you a sense of who you want to be as a person. Because if you're a young age, 14, 16 years old, you're very impressionable at that spot. And if we can show, hey, this is a world of, it's not just the medicine piece, but it's caring for your neighbors. People call 911 at the worst part of their lives. You show up. They called you. And you're there to be that calming presence, to hold their hand, to really, say, listen, it's going to be okay. Or if it's not going to be okay, let them know that also, but that I'm here to help you. I'm with you. I'm not going anywhere. And that translates to almost everything else in your life. No matter what you do, that core training really, sinks in. If we can get that at a young age through youth corps, I mentioned that it wasn't only medicine, the youth corps. We cleaned up leaves, we shoveled snow, we cleaned graffiti. It's that person that you want to grow up to be that community servant, that, person that doesn't just stop, when the clock ends at work, they're always looking to do extra. It's great to the youth to let them know, hey, this is EMS. There is a fantastic career path with it, whether you go FDNY in the city career or if you, just do it as a volunteer and you do other things. But it's a great starting spot for youth, I think.
Definitely. And you mentioned in the family, like for me, I would not be in EMS if my father wasn't EMS. He's a retired lieutenant with FDNY. And that's the only reason I got into this field is because he made me. Otherwise, I would have not known how to get, in EMS whatsoever. So that's very important, just access.
Yeah. We had lucky. It was a family friend that said, hey, come down for a meeting. And if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't be here today.
Right, and how many people on our job, their dads or their generations in EMS or PD, law enforcement or whatever. It's kind of like that. So yeah, no, that's great. Can you describe, I guess, your overall experience working as a first responder? What would you say overall? I guess you kind of touched on that, but expound on that a little bit, like your overall experience as a first responder.
I would say it's probably one of the most humbling experiences I've ever had in my life. Being that person that, well, again, when someone's in that dire part, they think they're dying or they're hurt and they dial 911, to be the person that responds, that responsibility, it makes you grow up fast. I started this when I was 14, 16 years old, and I'm responding to some life-altering experience, and it was such a humbling place to be the person to help, to hold the hand, to really, be that person that's responding to them. And I remember one of my first calls when I was working 911 for Northwell, and I remember responding, if anything happens, I could always call 911 for help. And I realized, wait a minute, I'm 911. And I remember that very distinctly, realizing I am 911. I am that emergency response. And it really sat me back and said, wow, everything I've done up to this point has prepared me for this, the training, the knowledge. And it's such a humbling experience to be that person that when someone calls for help, they know you're coming no matter what.
Yeah, I never looked at it like that, but that's pretty deep. I am 911.
Yeah, so, it was. Yeah. It's definitely keeps me calm, and not only in medical emergencies, but if you look at the training as a first responder and the stuff that we see on the outside, not everyone sees that. Not everybody hears about the things that we see, and it really puts life in perspective for you. It makes you calm in almost any scenario. It teaches you how to be present. We can always dwell on the past. We can look to the future, but just take life for what it is. Don't take it for granted. Tell the people that you love them, because we know how many times, someone walks out the door, that's the last time you see them. And it really gives you that perspective of cherish life, cherish your loved ones. If you want to go do something, go do it. And it's really that place of being calm in an emergency. And if anything else is stressful in life, it teaches you as a first responder how to kind of put it through an assessment, right? What's the most important thing I have to do right now? What's the secondary thing I have to do? Yep. And it filters through everything else, not just medicine, which is great.
Yeah, definitely. And speaking of, I guess, staying calm in a tough situation, you recently had a situation, I guess, where you had to stay a little calm, and you want to tell us about that?
Yeah, so Friday night, we gave birth, my wife gave birth to our third baby. So now we have two girls and a boy. Emma, excellent. Ben, and Molly just joined us 6 days ago.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It's one of the greatest gifts in the world, and to have your baby come out right near Father's Day, you can't ask for a better Father's Day present. I remember my wife, said, my water broke. And I said, okay. And of course, you go right into husband mode, but you also go into ER nurse, first responder mode at the same time. So I think I got my clothes on in about 3 seconds. Bags were packed, ready to go. So that's part of being EMS and first responders. You check out your ambulance. You make sure you have your equipment ready to go. And our bags were ready, packed, and all we had to do was grab the bag and go out the door. Water broke, and I asked, you having any contractions? And she said, yes. I said, okay, this is a third kid. This baby's coming out like a slip and slide. So we need to go now. Very calming with her. I said, all right, well, we're having the baby tonight. This could be a couple hours. This could be a short thing. We're not sure, but we're going to get our bags. We're going to go to the car, and you're going to be just fine. I just want you to let me know when you have a contraction. Right. And very calmly, me on the backside knowing, hey, I might deliver this on the highway. I'm keeping track of the contractions as well. And it's all that training. It's that first responder EMS training that really, makes you calm in situations like that where, yes, it's your wife, and yes, I am going to have a baby, so you have that emotional side going too. I'm all excited. But it's that working through your assessments and keeping yourself calm. And certainly, being a certified emergency vehicle operator, as I am, being trained to drive ambulances. Did you use those skills? Those skills, a siren would have helped a lot. But certainly, I knew how to drive safely, through an emergency. And just those skills that were taught to me early on, you've mastered them over time. And I think everything I have today is from my early EMS training.
Definitely. And congrats again on the newborn.
Thank you. She actually sleeps. So it's the best baby that we've had.
Very nice. One thing we do as EMTs, as paramedics, as first responders, we are forced to make split-second decisions. We don't really have a lot of time to ponder what we're going to do. It's either this is what we think it is, and here's the protocol. If this is what it is, this is what I do. And I think after years of being in EMS for myself, that kind of overflows into my personal life. So there are times, I don't know about you,
Yep.
but there are times when my wife may just want to talk about something, and I'm like, oh, this is what you need to do, and I'm going to fix it. And I think we're wired like that. I mean, does that go in with you? Because I know with me, that's definitely something I have to consciously, like, turn it off and, like, not be in first responder mode, let's fix the problem, but just, like, be husband, sit and listen. How does that, is that something that you deal with?
Yeah, and it's funny that it's very hard to turn off that first responder mode. I remember for our first child, my wife's in labor, and all of a sudden, I'm an ER nurse also, so I've dealt with a lot of deliveries in the ER, and as well as in the field with EMS. And I remember her heart rate started to drop a little bit, my wife's, and the baby's heart rate started to drop a lot, and my wife was on her back. So immediately, the nurse and I jump up. We go into nurse first responder mode. We flip her on her left side. We're giving her oxygen. Right. That's protocol for what you do, and the heart rate drops. So we get her onto her left side, and give her the oxygen, everything gets better, and she looks up at me and goes, what the hell's going on? Right. I said, oh, sorry, I forgot I'm the husband here. And I had to explain to her, you're okay, you're just laying on your back, we had to flip you, you're fine. I also own a small consulting company where I train organizations on leadership, development, and a lot of stuff we talk about is wanting to fix the problem. And sometimes, people like us, first responders, like you said, we make split-second decisions, and we honestly don't have a lot of time to sit down and talk about it. Because if we do, lives are at stake. If we talk about it too much, if we don't act, somebody could die. And that affects your personal life as well as professional. So in my other professional world, what we do is we actually train people that you don't want to just jump right in all the time. Even though there's a clear problem and this is a problem we want to fix. How many times have we been in a circumstance or an argument and somebody says, we've had this same fight before, or this is not the first time we've talked about this. And it's because we never really got down to the real issue. What we've done is we just try to fix the problem. All right, here's the problem, here's the protocol, fix it, it's off. And we never spend time to really understand the other person or understand the problem. So I do teach techniques on how you work through that. You commit to the other person, let them know, it seems like we're fighting for different things, or I'm here with you to resolve this. And then we really seek to understand, what their purpose is. A lot of people will fight over, what they think they want. And we ask the other person, well, why is it you want that? Like, what's your reasoning behind it? And until we can understand the full reasoning, sometimes it's hard to really fix the problem. So in my professional life as a consultant now, teaching organizational leadership and success and communications, that has also come into my EMS first responder world too, where you're asking patients, I know you're here because your belly hurts. What are you afraid of? Like, what do you really think it is? To kind of put them more at ease, because WebMD is out there, and you have a lot of patients who are thinking, this could be it. This could be the cancer, or the heart attack, and I'm really scared. And now knowing that other side of seeking to understand why they're really here, why'd you really call 911? And it comes down to I was scared. Every 911 call we have, every patient that comes into the ER, they were scared at some point in the day and said, I'm coming to the ER, or I'm scared, I'm calling 911, and we can be those people to say, I'm here. I have you. It's going to be okay.
From your vantage point where you were working during COVID, what did you see, or how did it impact you?
Sure. Yeah, and as you said, COVID was only the most recent one. We've been through so much, and we went through 9/11. We went through Ebola. There's
exactly.
It's been waves, and it's just the latest one we had was COVID. So in COVID, I was working in the ER and the ICUs. I was right up close to patients that had COVID, these intubated patients. It was something that we've never dealt with before. This was a virus that we didn't know much about. We didn't know how it was transmitted. We didn't really know how to treat it early on, to be very honest. And I remember going into the hospital of knowing, all right, am I going to catch this? Is this something that I'm going to have to, bring home to my family? Is it going to affect them? So we have all that thinking. And then the other side is we've usually always known what to do. You have someone that's heart's not beating, you do CPR. They're not breathing, you give them albuterol for asthma treatment. I remember sitting with the nurses and docs, and we were just brainstorming. He goes, we don't have a protocol for this. We don't really know exactly what to do.
Exactly.
And that was very emotional. And we did everything we could, and we were successful with a lot of the treatments, but the data wasn't there yet. I remember probably the most heart-wrenching pieces I had was working in the ICU. And, obviously visitors weren't in the hospital, and, we're all gowned up, and you kind of don't feel like a person. You have so many masks and goggles, and nobody can really see you. As nurses, we're always used to smiling and being present, and we had to hide all that under the PPE that we were wearing. So I'm all dressed in a PPE. I'm standing next to a patient that's intubated, and the family called, and I said, "Can we talk to him?" And so, well, you don't have a phone in the room, but I gave him my cell phone number. I said, call my cell phone number, and I'm going to walk into the room, and we're going to talk to your loved one. And I had the cell phone right next to the patient's ear. And, of course, it was all proper protected in a bag and everything. And I listened to the family talking to him. And they were saying, get better. Come home to us. You can do this. You're strong. And I remember in that moment, of course, tears are coming down my eyes at this point because I know that this patient is not coming home.
Wow.
He's not going to make this. And I'm looking at the patient. I'm hearing the family. You could just imagine, the pain and suffering in the family, not being able to be there and hold their hand. That was my takeaway from COVID, was that heart-wrenching, that family's not there. They're not coming home. They can't see them. They couldn't say goodbye. The last time they spoke to their loved ones, hey, I'm going to the hospital. I don't feel good. Mm-hmm. And that was it. We can't thank the EMS enough. We were in the hospital, in the ER. We had room. I could leave the room of a COVID patient. Yes, it was everywhere. Right. But you think about the EMS crews. 2-3 people in the back of an ambulance, closed,
right?
No air ventilation,
going into houses,
and you don't know the danger there. And I think that speaks to the heart of a first responder. It's someone that when the world's in trouble, first responders go. We're not one that stays home and we don't hide from it. We respond. And it's that 911 response person, hey, there's a worldwide pandemic going on. I'm going to work. I think it's so sad that sometimes it takes horrible things to happen for us to come together. And I'd love to see us all come together all the time. Right. And we are those people. We just need to remember this is who we really are.
How did you get into politics?
So I think it was a friend of mine 10 years ago, and we were probably talking politics at the table, and he said, we should run for Congress. And I think I laughed at him. It was, okay, very funny. And looking back on it now, you always look back onto, what have you done in life that led you to this point today? And I can remember that dinner was probably the seed that was planted in my head that this might be something that I should do. I really feel a responsibility, for everything that's happening right now. What got me into politics was seeing the current members of Congress, not all of them, but majority of them. I think they've lost sight of their title, representative. Now, as you're a congressman, your title is representative, and I feel the majority of them are just representing themselves, or they're representing themselves to get reelected, and they've lost sight of the people in the community and really representing the people that elected them, that voted for them. And if they've been in politics for so long, 6, 20, 30 years, you lose sight of the people. So it got me involved in, definitely working in COVID, watching on the news, seeing politicians fight each other while we're all donned in PPE trying to save lives. It really drove I need to respond now. This is a problem. And if I just stood by and watched, all these bad things continue to happen, what kind of example would I be setting for my kids? And I've always had that, call to community service, to serve your neighbors. And when you see something wrong, you need to stand up, you need to go. And that's that first responder in me where, you see something wrong, you go in. And that was my, first initial thought to run for Congress was I think representation has completely been lost. And we need to bring back what a real representative could be. And as an ER nurse, a former EMT, small business owner, that real compassionate, holistic approach that I give to my patients. I don't care what, race, sex, gender, political views you have. You come to my ER, I'm going to try to save your life with every, possible thing I can. And that's the same kind of mentality I'm going to bring into Congress. I represent the entire district. Everybody that's in the district would have a voice with me.
Excellent. So something you said, when I guess what inspired you was that one person just saying that little blurb, you should run for Congress, right? And one thing I always say, is that our words have weight. Mm-hmm. And you can use words to encourage somebody, or you can use words to destroy and build somebody down. And that same person could have easily just said, "Oh, you're a jackass," and just walked away. But instead, they just dropped a little, "Hey, you should run for Congress," and that kind of sparked the seed. That's a great, I guess, testament to that whole concept of using your word. Your words do have power, even just you never know how you're going to inspire or encourage somebody with something you could say,
Right.
and that's pretty cool. Kudos to that person.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that same person, asked me now that they know I'm running for Congress. Well, why don't you run for something local, like smaller? Right. And I said, well, I looked at that, but really where I feel the problem is Congress, and that's where I need to respond. I think in the local community, I think we're doing okay. Mm-hmm. I think where the real issue is where they need a first responder to come help them out is Congress.
Wow. So clearly, this is definitely, I guess, an uphill battle, right? You're a new guy to the political arena. You're running for Congress. Where exactly, what district, what area?
Yeah, so the best part is I'm not a politician, and that's what I think politics needs right now. I think we've had enough of the career politicians fighting for Democrat or Republican, and I think you need someone to fight for just the people. And taking someone. I don't have any political agendas. What I'm a conservative Republican. Down the middle on a lot of issues. I lean right a bit on economic issues, and what I really want to do is show people that I'm going to respond to you. I'm going to help you out, and you're going to be the voice in the district. And the district is New York 3. It covers Suffolk, Nassau, and Queens. One of the great parts about it, too, is most of the Northwell hospitals are in the New York 3rd District. We have Manhasset, LIJ, Syosset, Plainview, Glen Cove. Right. Being a Northwell employee, from EMS to nursing and administration. I was a manager of LIJ's emergency department for a bit. I understand the healthcare system. And I've also responded and treated the families of the 3rd District. People have called 911. I've come to their houses. I also was an infusion nurse for a little bit. Okay. Where I'd go to patients' houses and infuse chemotherapy and IV antibiotics and patients that weren't in the hospital but needed care at home. And those are all people of the 3rd District. I've been in their homes. I've cared for them in the emergency departments. And now I'm going to move forward and care for them in Congress.
Excellent. You're a first responder, EMT, RN, dad, running for Congress. And one of your district covers the area that is covered by the largest health system in the Northeast, basically, right? And one of the big issues that's out right now, especially after COVID, post-COVID, is issues of healthcare disparities and the differences in care. Is that something that, what can we do to address that? As far as on a political scale, how can we attack that?
So obviously, as the nurse and former EMT, healthcare is one of my largest platforms that I'm going to be running on. And I think to fix healthcare, you kind of have to know what healthcare is. You have to be on the inside of it. One of my biggest things I want to address is mental health, where I don't think we're doing enough for them. Where I've seen in the emergency departments, kids have been in the ERs for 6 days waiting for psychiatric care because they don't have the outpatient care or there's not another facility to send them to. So one of the things we're going to partner on is the mental health care. We need to provide more care for them. And not only the patients that have mental health illnesses, but also first responders that are going through stuff. Being that awareness, police suicide is up. PTSD is coming right around the corner for everyone that's been through COVID. So mental health facilities, mental health training for our first responders as well. We need to fund them and give them more education, how to handle these mental health emergencies. They have great training so far. We just do more with it. There's also a link between mental health and our drug and alcohol epidemics that are going on. I have a proven record in the health system working with SBIRT, right? Teaching patients, there's other options besides alcohol and giving them alcohol treatments with brief interventions and treatment for them.
Dr. Kapoor and his team.
Dr. Kapoor, I've worked with them a lot. We actually enrolled the program at a couple of hospitals I was in. Also early drug identifications as well. So attacking, treating mental health, increasing facilities for them, and being able to have conversations with healthcare executives, healthcare providers. As a healthcare provider myself, as a nurse, I understand, right? And I've seen this firsthand of what happens to the patients and the families when they don't get the care, because they keep coming right back to the emergency department because they're not getting enough care on the outside. So as a congressman, I would be able to sit down, speak with the local leaders, and come up with a better plan of how to address mental health on the outpatient side, as well as inpatient as well. As a nurse, though, I do feel that everyone should be entitled to health care. As an ER nurse, I feel like if your child's not breathing, we shouldn't be talking about money at this point. We shouldn't be talking about, I can't afford this medicine, so I'm not bringing my kid. That I'm not for. And that is where I want to address healthcare on accountability, for the pricing of certain items. So if you're diabetic, it is ridiculous the price of insulin that you have to afford. And if you're a lower income family, you should not have to decide that I can't take this dose because I can't afford the next one. If you're a diabetic, you can't miss your insulin doses. All right? And then if you think about it, all right, if this patient isn't getting all the medication they need, they come to the hospital, and that's a very costly visit because there's a lot more treatment that needs to be done. It's cheaper for healthcare and all if we get the insulin at a cheaper price and it can handle it outpatient and it doesn't have the cost of all these, lengthy hospital stays, increased medications. So I want to talk with drug companies, talk with hospitals, talk with my fellow members in Congress to really address the pricing on a lot of our treatments and medications. Thankfully, people that have, problems with drugs, we give Narcan away for free. People that have addictions, thank God we can save their lives. They can come get it at the hospital. They can get it at other places where families can hold on to this, give them Narcan and save them. It's a wonderful program. Why can't we also do that with EpiPens? We see how many patients that, young, and you talk about disparities in healthcare, they have a peanut allergy. You can't afford an EpiPen.
For $800.
Yeah, and it's not even if you take a peanut. Someone next to you could be eating a peanut and cause that life-threatening reaction. So families should not have to worry about spending $800 sometimes on an EpiPen. So those are the things I would work on, lowering the cost of some of these life-saving medications. Probably the first two we look at would be EpiPens and insulin. And just do accountability. But no matter where you're from, where you're at in life, you need to be able to come to an emergency department and seek care. And that's what emergency departments do. We never turn away anybody. So also work with opening, clinics, X-ray outpatient care centers. And I think we need to do a little bit more on the outpatient side than inpatient. We've seen Northwell make a great move on that, moving care outside of the hospital because not everything needs a hospital. You have telemedicine. We have paramedics going to the houses that can handle the issues rather than come to the emergency department. We now have ambulances that have CAT scans in them. Right? We can determine if we are having a stroke before we even get to the ER. So a big push for more community health care. Again, it's not Medicare for all. It's not, United Healthcare that everyone just gets free health care. I think there does need to be good programs for, some capitalism in there as well. But with the understanding of, we shouldn't turn people away. And medicine should not be so expensive that parents have to make decisions on, can I get this operation? Should I take this medicine? And I'm going a little long here, but I had a friend tell me that they had a group of moms. And, they're teen moms and, they had their babies. That's nothing easy to do. And all the kudos to them for being able to do that and having the child. And the group of moms got together and shared antibiotics because not one of them could afford it on their own.
Wow.
And, it broke my heart to hear something like that. And these are nurses. They were starting their career. Now they're nurses. Mm-hmm. And to make that decision, it's one of the most unsafe things you could do is take other people's medicines. But to have to decide that, to give your child an antibiotic, that's things that we need to address in Congress. We're one of the richest countries in the world. The fact that we can't give our kids medicine is beyond me. People, you still need to pay for it, just not at the level that we're charging right now.
Wow, that's it's that's a lot to take in. That's a lot to tackle. Definitely a lot to tackle. But,
and I think, no other person could tackle that like I could because I'm on the inside. I know this. I've been through the hospitals. I've been through EMS. I understand. I have a graduate degree in business. Mm-hmm. I've been in administration, so I understand the finance side of healthcare as well as the healthcare side of healthcare. And that expertise, not a lot of people have that in Congress. And that's something where I can really, bring my constituents of the 3rd District, New York, and the country to really make a push to improve healthcare all around.
And you shouldn't, like you said, medical decisions should not be dependent upon money. Kevin Surdi, running for Congress, District 3.
District 3, Suffolk, Nassau, and Queens County.
It's been a pleasure having you with us today. Anything that you want to, parting words, you want to say out to the gang out here at Lights and Sirens Podcast?
Yeah, so I'll say thank you so much for your time, and I'd love to have your support. ER nurse, a fellow first responder. I've walked your walk. I've been on the ambulances. I've been on the calls with fire and PD. I've seen how things happen in real time. I've seen it happen on the streets. I've seen it happen in the ERs. So, sending me to Congress is certainly a benefit to healthcare and first responders. So I'm very much looking forward to your support and looking forward to hearing you. If you don't like my Facebook page, Kevin Surdi, Surdi. Put some links on the podcast as well and take a look. And feel free to contact me.
Awesome. Once again, thanks for joining us, Kevin.
Thanks so much, Brian. It's great catching up to you.
Same here. All right.